Several members had to come check in and go finish handling some business, and that is okay. We have what we need to get started. On the agenda, my first motion is going to be to take up Senate nomination 118 and 119 in block. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Jim Richards is here from Ridgeland. And Mr. Richards, if you would come and stand for us at the podium so that we can ask you a couple of questions. You'll be sure and push the button on your microphone. You'll see it turns green. Mr. Richards is here. The position is the Commercial Transportation Enforcement Division Appeals Board, and you see him on our agenda 2 different times. One is to fulfill the unexpired term that does end this summer, and then the next nomination there would be for a full 4-year term. Mr. Richards, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely. So my name's Jim Richards, and grew up in Vicksburg and have been working at KLLM Transport for 35 years. It's the only job I've ever held. I guess no one else wanted to hire me, but I spent my entire career there. My family and I have lived in Jackson for the past 35 years. My wife and I, of 35 years, have 2 sons who both work in the company for me as well. So spent my entire career in the trucking business. If you don't know much about us, we have 2 companies, KLLM Transport Services, based here in Mississippi. And we also own another company called Frozen Food Express, based out of Dallas, Texas. I have the responsibility for running both of those companies. Both are refrigerated temperature control companies, primarily handling food products and pharmaceuticals. And we run about 4,000 trucks nationwide and also into Mexico. So most of our customers are household brands that you would recognize. M&M Mars is our largest customer, handle a lot of Snickers, and Tyson Foods, Kraft General Foods, ConAgra, Cargill, those kind of people. So do quite a bit of business here out of Mississippi, out of the poultry plants. But most of our business, quite frankly, is all over the country, and we deliver to most of your major metropolitan areas. We go where the people live. So real active in the Northeast, California, Chicago, Texas, and Florida, Georgia, those kind of areas. So that's pretty much about myself. I went to Southern Mississippi, graduated there with a business degree, and have been working in the trucking business for my entire career. Went to high school with Briggs Hobson. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that. I was probably doing pretty well until I mentioned that. And if you didn't know that, he goes by Bubba. So just want you to know that.
Thank you. Sounds like you're very well qualified. We appreciate you being willing to serve, and I believe Chairman Hobson has some questions for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the main reason I left the conference that I was discussing very important appropriations bills was not to come down and speak for Mr. Richards, but it was to come down to make sure he didn't talk bad about me. I was coming down to protect myself. Frankly, Jim is a longtime friend. We graduated high school together. I know he looks a lot older than I do, but we're actually the same age, and I couldn't think of a better person to do this job. And he's had a tremendously successful business career for KLLM, and he's a good family person, great business leader in our state, and I'm honored to have him. And at the appropriate time, Madam Chair, I would move that we do advise and consent on the nomination. Thank you.
All right, we've got a motion. Any other questions before we take it up? Senator Whaley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I heard the shot at our appropriations chairman, so I want to protect Bubba a little bit. So I'm looking at your peer report, and on the nickname it says Jim and then Scooter. So which one is it?
I was promised there'd be no questions today. Well, I'll tell you a little funny story. So I grew up, and everyone in Vicksburg knew me by Scooter. And the funniest part about this is all the way through college, that was my only name. I went to interview for a job at KLLM. I was broke and I needed a job, and my resume had on it James Morris Richards Jr. And the gentleman interviewing me started calling me Jim. I wasn't about to correct him. I'd never been called Jim in my whole life, but I needed a job so bad I wasn't about to correct him. So I just went with it. So I ended up getting the job. I went home and told my wife, I said, well, I got 2 things to tell you. She said, what's that? I said, well, I got a new job and I got a new name. So been called Jim ever since. But Bubba and I were, or Briggs and I were, I guess it was about last year. Maybe we were having dinner with the Lamptons a couple of years ago, and he and I were back and forth about Scooter this, Bubba that, and all this. About halfway through the dinner, somebody said, who in the world is Scooter and Bubba? Sound like the Dukes of Hazzard, but But yeah, I've been known to be called Scooter for sure.
All right, any other questions? We've got a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.
All right, now the motion is going to be to take up Senate nomination number 146 and 147 in block. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Any opposed? All right, I'd like to ask Mr. Abear to come on up and take the podium, please. And this is an appointment to the Mississippi Motor Vehicle Commission. The first nomination is to fulfill the unexpired term, which does expire this summer, and then another 4-year term after that. All right, Mr. Abear, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure.
Thank you for that. And I just want to bring to the committee's attention, if you'll look on the peer packet on the second page, there was a notation with regard to some compliance notation, I'll call it. I want the committee to know I've checked this out thoroughly. It looks like there was a company listed called H2 Transportation Service LLC. And let me ask you some questions about that company. From our conversation, I understand that with that company, you do not manufacture, distribute, or sell motor vehicles. Could you sort of explain to the committee what that company is?
Yeah, actually, I own some businesses. That entity that are specifically funds that we use.
Okay, and with that said, are there any questions from committee members on this issue or anything on this appointment? All right, do I have a motion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? All right, do I have another motion? Thank you. Thank you so much.